Hello my loves, and welcome back to the channel for another video. Today I wanted to share with you a deck review of the Three Black Moons Shadow deck. This is part of a series I'm doing where I'm reviewing decks that I've had for several months or years that I actually have spent time using that I feel would be helpful to, or at least entertaining to watch and kind of share my experience of how I use the deck and things like that. So this one is particularly special because I feel that this deck gets a lot of kind of more negative reviews. For clarification, I purchased this deck with my own money. I backed the Kickstarter creation of this deck, I believe, last year in 2023. Don't quote me on that. But anywho, I've had this for quite a while and I wanted to share my thoughts on it and how I use it because I do feel that it can be quite a challenging deck if you are expecting it to work in a certain way. So without further ado, let's just get into it. This is a Three Black Moons Tarot by Burning Paper Hearts. And it says on the back here, Three Black Moons is a shadow deck created by artist Chris Madsen using strong visual imagery along with a guidebook. This special oracle deck assists you through difficult emotions, trauma work, finding clarity in your relationships, or direction and guidance for life. Three Black Moons' dark and beautiful feminine nature gazes into the macabre as you connect to the deepest parts of your soul in a sacred ritual, sometimes known as shadow work. Now, I don't want to say that this claim is inaccurate because I do use this deck in shadow work related things. However, I also just enjoy using this deck for ritual workings in general or digging into things like that, kind of the witchy path vibes. But if you're new to shadow work or you're looking for a how-to deck to use with shadow work, this is not your deck. And I think that was the issue that I've seen come up a lot because there is no, I'm holding the guidebook here because it's separated into multiple parts and I want to be able to talk about it. But the guidebook here, let me just bookmark my little pages. It doesn't have any material. It's just a page that reiterates exactly what's on the back of the box, and then you just have 4 sections with a little description for each card within the book, and that's it. Like there's no spreads, there's no ritual suggestions, there's no explanation of what shadow work is, there's no prompts connected to the cards. Like there's nothing. It's just short and sweet. Here's a card, here's a little bit of a meaning of the card, like the end, roll credits, literally the back is credits. So when you use this deck, you really have to already like have a practice that you do and know how to engage with that. So with that disclaimer out of the way, I want to talk about how I use this deck and why I actually do really enjoy it. So this deck is actually divided into 4 parts. There are the emotion cards, the archetypes, the ritual cards, and the instruments or tools. And let's just talk about the deck production for a second. It is an indie deck. It has that velvety kind of finish to it. It has these gilded edges. It is that like soft gilding, so it's not the gilding that's like foily. It's more just like kind of painted on there. And these are the backs. They have these cool little moons in the corners. Here are the fronts. The shuffle is really great because they are quite flexible. I find a lot with these kind of rose petally decks, I struggle because the cards clump together. However, for some reason, in this particular version of that finish, I don't have that issue. So this is a photography deck. There will be nudie nudes, so just be aware of that. What do I want to say about this deck? I love the simplicity of it. I am someone who's really big into images that feel real and yet otherworldly at the same time. And while I don't appreciate all of these cards, like I really am not a huge fan of this mask card, even though I love like the concept of like a mask card. I really love like this hourglass card, for instance. And the way that the photography is done gives you a lot to go on. It really connects you to what it's like to be human and the emotions within that, but also what it's like to wield your power, to strip yourself bare, to tear yourself open, to do the shadow work it takes to look at the more darker side of life and the more intense emotions that make us human, and really just like embrace them for what they are and see them and work through them. This anger card is like everything. And it's sexy, but it's also vulnerable and confronting. And I feel that that's really kind of what shadow work is, right? Like those descriptions are shadow work in a nutshell, because it's really the healing work that we do where we meet our human self and our infinite nature, and we pour love onto ourselves by recognizing the darkness that is there, and we dig into those more difficult topics and more difficult pieces of our lives to understand ourselves better and to set ourselves free. And I feel that the different choices of cards in this deck really do lend itself well to exploring that. Again, if you already have an understanding of shadow work, if you already have your own way of working with your shadows, it gives you fantastic jumping off points. It gives you like the archetypes, it gives you kind of a journey, it gives you ritual tools and emotions, and it just allows you to take a deeper look and to get lost in the simplicity and yet complexity of the imagery and what makes it beautiful and how beautiful the different facets of our humanity is. And I really enjoy it. So when I use this, I will use it in a capacity that helps me to understand the shadow. This is something that I would use when I know a shadow is coming up and I just want to kind of like dig a little bit more into it. Say I've already done my journaling, I already kind of understand it a little bit, and I just want to understand how to work with it before I do my ritual and perhaps get some like suggestions or just food for thought on how I want to work on transmuting that energy or working deeper with that energy. I do find that this deck is really great for that, and it's helpful in the terms that I find is really empowering when you have these different cards that you're laying out and you're looking at it in this so like stripped back and yet deep and mysterious way. It allows me to sink into how I experience my magical practice and what it's like to use that magic as and from an empowered place to understand ourselves and to affect change so that we can show up in the world in a more harmonious and holistic way without getting down on ourselves or belittling ourselves or putting a band-aid on it or bypassing anything. So while this deck is not a how-to deck, it's not a good deck for beginners if you don't already have a shadow practice. I do find that if you just want a tool that you can use within your own way that has this particular flavor, then this is a fantastic deck. And you can choose to use the guidebook. And again, it's kind of like you have to take it with a grain of salt and figure out what that means for you kind of guidebook. Let's pull a card. I've been doing that in these reviews. We have a card for an example for the Leanne Aligned Collective. Let's just take this one. Curiosity. Now, again, the guidebook doesn't have a thing to look up, but I'm going to assume that curiosity is an emotion, which I know is in the front. Here we go. Curiosity. Millions of discoveries from the cosmos to the mysteries of the sea were founded by individualists from different backgrounds and interests who all had one thing in common: curiosity. To be curious is divine. To seek knowledge is the work of the gods and goddesses. You are being inspired to join the realms of the great in search of truth. Be thoughtful, explore, and expand your inner world. You are sure to find pearls of wisdom there. Beautiful, right? So you can also use this deck as like a daily draw deck because of the way that the guidebook is set up. Let's just do another one here. So this is the mirror. So this would be a tool. The mirror. Are you brave enough to take a look in the mirror and see yourself for who you really are? Self-reflection can be brutal and beautiful and often undervalued in our culture, but the truth, like a mirror, is inescapable. It is time to disconnect from the outside world for a little while and turn inward. Take note of what you have been doing well, what darkness you struggle with, and whether your coping mechanisms are helpful or not. So it's a multi-purpose deck. You could use this as a clarifier. I have used it just for a daily draw. You can use it in shadow work. You can use it in regular rituals. You can use them as altar cards for philosophical musings. You're likely not going to use this deck if you're looking to like study something or dig into deep esoteric topics. Like, this is one of those decks that gives you like a little bit of a taste. It's got really great structure to it. It's got beautiful imagery and well thought out concepts. However, it doesn't hold your hand. It's not going to show you the way. You got to find your own way and know how to use it when you use it. So that is my review of the Three Black Moons Shadow deck. I hope that you found this helpful. And if this is a deck that you have, let me know how you like to use it, what your thoughts are on it. I look forward to connecting with you in the comments below. And with all that being said, I will see you again really soon. Take care, my loves.